Fake it till you make it. We've heard that advice 1,000 times. Act confident, project authority, pretend you belong until you do. And maybe that works for some people. But if you're an outlier, if you're a woman, LGBTQ plus, a person of color, or the only one in the room who looks like you, loves like you, or talks like you, that advice isn't just useless, it's dangerous. Hi, everybody, I'm Shar, and I've spent 20 years riding bulls and 25 years managing fleets. And I'm here to tell you outliers can't afford to fake it. And here's why. When someone tells you to fake it till you make it, they're assuming you have the same margin for error as everyone else in the room. They're assuming people will give you that benefit of doubt. They're assuming your competence won't be questioned the second you walk through that door. But that's not your reality. If you're the only woman on a crew of 30 guys and the first time you don't know something, somebody's already thinking, see, she doesn't belong here. If you're an LGBTQ plus person and someone catches you bluffing your way through a technical conversation, they're not thinking, oh, he's still learning. They're thinking, I knew we shouldn't have hired him. And if you're a person of color in a senior leadership meeting and you fumble on an answer, it doesn't just reflect on you. It reflects on every person who looks like you, who comes after you. That's the weight outliers carry. And fake it till you make it ignores that weight entirely. And here's what happens when you fake it. You get asked a technical question that you don't know the answer to. So you BS your way through it. Maybe you get away with it once or twice, but someone will eventually call you out on it. And now you're not just wrong, you're a fraud. You've spent all this time trying to look competent. And the second people realize you don't actually know what you're talking about, you lose all the ground you thought you were gaining. And for outliers, that credibility gap is nearly impossible to close because people were already looking for a reason not to trust you. And now you just gave it to them. So if you can't fake it, what do you do instead? You lead with iron. Iron is your competence, technical skill, proof that you know what you're doing. When you're an outlier, your first word has to be bulletproof. Not because you're trying to show off, it's because you're trying to survive. You don't get to build rapport first and prove competence later. You have to flip that script. Prove you belong, then build the relationships. Now, let me give you a real example. When I stepped into my first senior fleet management role, I was already the only woman in the room full of men who've been doing this for 20 plus years. I didn't walk in trying to be likable. I didn't crack jokes and try to fit in. I walked in with my data. I knew our failure rates by vehicle type. I knew which vendors were missing deadlines. I knew exactly how much we were spending on each reactive maintenance versus preventative maintenance. And when someone questioned me, and they did, I had my numbers already ready. Now, did some people think I was cold? Probably. Did I get labeled too direct in some performance evaluation later? Yeah, I did. But here's what mattered in that moment. They couldn't question my competence. Once they trusted that I knew what I was doing, then we could talk about the football or the weekend. Then I could be the person, not just a woman trying to prove she belonged. But iron had to come first. Fake it till you make it is trying to lead with warmth when competence is already being questioned. And that doesn't work for outliers. It's hoping people will like you enough to overlook the fact that you don't know what you're doing yet. And maybe that works when people already assume you're competent. But when they're already skeptical about you, it backfires. Now, as a woman, I paid a price for being direct. because that double bind is real. If you lean in with warmth and connection first, they question your competence. And if you lead with competence first, then they question your warmth. Men really don't face this trade off, but you do. This isn't just in your head. Research on women in leadership found that women who display competence without warmth get labeled as aggressive, cold, and difficult. But women who display warmth without competence get dismissed as nice, but not leadership material. It's exhausting, and it's not fair. But here's what you need to know. You're already navigating through this. If you're an outlier, you already know how to read a room. You've been doing it your whole career. You know when to ask questions, when to build rapport. You know when to assert yourself with data, and you know when to wait and let that room breathe before you speak. You know when to connect with someone before the meeting to make sure they're on your side when it counts. That's not weakness. That's tactical intelligence. In fact, research on women board directors found that they use 6 participation tactics in navigating these situations. Warmth-based tactics are asking questions and connecting with people. Then there's competence-based tactics with asserting with data and qualifying with credentials. And then there's a hybrid tactic, which is waiting strategically and and checking for understanding. You probably are already using all 6 and not even realizing it. But here's the non-negotiable part. Your iron must be visible. You can choose different tactics depending upon the room. And sometimes you lead with a question like, what am I missing here? Or sometimes you lead with credentials. I've been doing this for a while, and this is what the data shows. Sometimes you wait and let someone else speak first, and then you back them up with your proof. But no matter what approach you use, your iron must be visible. Your competence, your data, your expertise, that part is non-negotiable. Now, here's what nobody wants to say out loud. You don't get to just be yourself the way other people do. You have to read the room, choose the approach, code switch, and adapt. And that's exhausting. But here's what you do control: your iron. They can question your tone, they can question your approach, but they can't question your data. So, how do you actually build that iron? How do you build real credibility instead of faking confidence? First, you got to know your lane. You got to own your lane. Now, you don't have to know everything, but you do have to know your lane. When someone asks you a question outside your expertise, don't bullshit and say, I don't know. Don't bullshit. You say, I don't know, but I'll find out and get back to you by the end of the day. That's not weakness. That's credibility. But when they ask you something in your lane, you better have the answer locked and loaded. Know where your iron is strong, and make sure that people see it. Second, let your work speak before you do. Before you walk into the meeting, do the homework. Over-prepare the data. Anticipate the questions. Know your numbers cold. Not because you're insecure, but because you're protecting yourself. You're building a foundation of competence so strong that when someone questions you, you don't have to defend yourself. Your work does it for you. And then third, once you've proven your iron, then you can be fully human. Once people trust that you know your stuff, you can start showing up as your full self. You can ask how someone's weekend was. You can build those relationships, and you can show up as yourself, not just the professional version you thought you had to be. But that comes after the credibility is established, not before. Because here's the truth about confidence. Real confidence isn't faking it. Real confidence is knowing what you're good at admitting what you're not and refusing to pretend otherwise. Real confidence is walking into a room and saying, I don't know everything, but I know this and I'm damn good at it. Real confidence is understanding that you don't have the same margin for error as everyone else and then acting accordingly. Outliers can't afford to fake it, but we also don't have to. You don't need to fake confidence built when you've built competence. The goal isn't to walk in pretending you know everything. The goal is to walk in actually knowing your lane and owning it. Build your iron first. People see your competence before they see your personality. And once you've proven you belong, then you can stop performing and start leading. Now, if you're an outlier trying to figure out your natural default, whether you lead with iron or lead with instinct, I've built something for you. It's called the Iron and Instinct Self-Assessment, and it's free. It takes 5 minutes, and it'll show you where you naturally operate and what you need to practice. The link is in the description, and if this resonated with you, please subscribe. I try to post every week about leadership, navigating the trades, and what it actually takes to lead when you're the only one in the room. I'm Shara again, everybody. Thank you. Stay in the middle.